The building at the end of Hollow Elm looked like it held memories for other people, not me. When I signed the lease, the owner shrugged and said the last occupant left in a hurry. The apartment felt clean for being empty for years. Pale hardwood floors, a crooked radiator, and a bow window that framed the street like a picture. I told myself I liked the quiet. The first odd thing happened 3 nights after I moved in. Around midnight, a light turned on in the tiny, boarded-over studio above mine. Not the warm glow of a lamp. This was a single, narrow beam that swept the ceiling in a slow half-circle, like someone checking the room with a key fob flashlight. I pressed my ear to the floor and heard the soft scrape of a chair. The sound had no rhythm of a living routine. It felt deliberate, as if someone were marking time. I knocked on the ceiling with the knuckles of my fist out of reflex. The movement above stopped. Later, when I told the building manager, he listened and then said, "There is no unit above you listed. That section was bricked up decades ago." He recommended I install a thicker lock and not worry. I didn't take his advice seriously until the light came back. The second night, the beam traversed the ceiling for exactly 17 minutes. When it went out, the heat under my feet seemed to drop half a degree, as if the apartment had sighed. That morning, a smear appeared on the inside of my window, a vertical streak of dust with a pale crescent in its center, like the outline of a fingertip pressed and rubbed away. I wiped it. There was nothing beneath the glass. The third night, curiosity won. I set my phone recorder on the windowsill and left the room lights dimmed. At 0059, the light began. The audio captured the same faint chair scrape, the whisper of fabric, then a low, hollow tone that vibrated through the plaster, a sound like a tuning fork struck underwater. It was not a human voice, but the recording wore a whisper that read like syllables without language. I slowed the playback, and between static and that low tone, heard the phrase, "Stay with the light." That phrase lodged in my chest. I tried not to think of how a bricked-off space could ask anything. I stopped sleeping well.
On the 4th night, the light moved differently. Not in a steady sweep, but in short, pointed bursts, aimed at the corners above my bedroom. Each flash seemed to highlight something: the wardrobe, the radiator, the seam in the plaster. When the light fell on the entry hall, the shadow of something narrow and straight crossed the doorway like a blade between me and the rest of the world. I left a note on the doormat for the landlord. "Please check the sealed space above Unit 3A. His reply simply said, "No access. Previous owner sealed it. Building codes." He added a smiley face that did not comfort me. That week, items in my apartment shifted during the day. A book I was sure was stacked on the shelf would be face down on the rug. A spoon appeared on the windowsill in the morning where I never placed it. Once a small key lay by the bathtub, tarnished and blackened at the teeth, cold enough to fog my palm. On the 8th night, I came home to find the apartment door ajar. My locks were new, and there were no signs of forced entry. The lamp by the sofa was turned toward the ceiling. On the seat was a paper note folded into a tight square. My name was written on the outside in an old, precise hand I did not recognize. My fingers trembled as I opened it. Inside the paper was a single line in the same handwriting. "You keep the light. We remember." I considered leaving then. Instead, I followed what felt like a sharper instinct. I climbed the narrow service stairs to the roof at dawn. From there, I crawled along the ledge to the brickwork above my apartment. I found a hairline seam in the masonry, one thin gap where the light cutouts of the facade never matched straight. With a screwdriver borrowed from the maintenance closet, I gingerly eased the mortar. Loose dust fell away. My hand pushed into the space and met a pocket of cold air. Something soft shifted against my fingers, and a weight slipped down, landing on the roof. A small cloth bundle, tied with twine. Inside the bundle, an old, dimmed flashlight, a length of calendar paper with dates circled in red, and a single Polaroid. The photo showed my living room from above, grainy and gray, but in the chair where I slept, there was a figure hunched, not quite human, not quite shadow, hands folded like someone in prayer. The back of the photo had one handwritten word: Keeper.
That night, the beam did not sweep the ceiling. It focused instead on the window above my bathtub and held there for exactly 6 breaths worth of time. I left the bathroom light on and slept in the living room with the radio playing a static station at low volume. The sound sat in the room like background rain. Weeks later, the beam came less often. The squeak of the chair above slowed to a stutter and then stopped entirely. But sometimes, near the hour when dawn softens into the sky, I would find a single small object left precisely where the beam last pointed: a button with a mother-of-pearl face, a coin that clinked like a distant bell, a piece of paper with one printed letter on it: L. When friends asked why I stayed, I never had a clear answer. There were days I thought about selling everything and walking away. There were other days when I felt oddly protective, as if my apartment were entrusted to me by some tenant no one remembered. I took to leaving a low lamp by the window each night, not shining like the sharp beam upstairs, but gentle, steady. People do strange things for reasons they can't explain. A month after the first Polaroid, I received an email from the landlord with a single attachment, a scanned certificate from the 1940s declaring the building's 4th floor studio decommissioned after a small fire. Someone had added a typed note at the bottom: historically preserved. Do not disturb. The email's subject line read, regarding your request. I still keep a lamp by the window. Sometimes neighbors report hearing a vacuum late at night in other apartments, or they'll mention a light blinking where the old bricks meet new. Once, a child on the street looked up, pointed at my window, and said, "The man who watches the light is going to sleep." The child did not sound afraid. If you ever hear a beam sweeping your ceiling, don't assume it's only electricity. Check the seams that never line up. If something leaves you a small token, put a lamp in the window. Maybe it is a warning. Maybe it is a note of someone keeping vigil in a room they no longer have the body to occupy. But if you are the kind of person who keeps things, like photographs and small objects, be careful what you leave on the sill. If this unsettled you, smash like, subscribe, and comment below. Would you leave a lamp in the window or tear down the wall? I'll pin the best answers.
I never thought an unpaid storage bill could change my life, but that's exactly what happened last winter. My Aunt Ellen passed away unexpectedly, leaving behind a small locker at a self-storage facility outside of Denver. The management company called me because my name was listed as her emergency contact. They said if I didn't clear it out within 10 days, it would go to auction. I'd only seen my aunt a handful of times growing up. She was quiet, polite, and always seemed to be watching something just past your shoulder, as if you stood between her and a shadow you couldn't see. My parents said she was sensitive, which in our family meant she believed in things. The facility itself was ordinary. Gray corrugated metal doors, concrete floors, and fluorescent lights humming overhead. Unit 119. I unlocked it expecting boxes of old books or maybe furniture. Instead, the air inside came out heavy and cold, like a basement that hadn't been opened in decades. There were only 5 objects: a wooden chair, a floor mirror draped with a sheet, a cardboard box taped shut, an antique radio, and a single hanging light bulb swinging gently even though the air was still. When I turned the light on, the bulb flickered and something clattered inside the box. The sound wasn't paper or metal, it was brittle, like the pop of dried leaves snapping under weight. I opened the box carefully. Inside were dozens of cassette tapes, each one labeled in the same sharp handwriting: room record 1A, room record 1B, and so on. There are also photographs, grainy Polaroids of rooms that looked eerily similar to the one I stood in: a single chair, the same light bulb, and that covered mirror in the background. Only in each photograph, the sheet over the mirror had shifted slightly, as if something beneath it had turned to face the camera. My aunt had dated every photo. They spanned nearly 20 years. Curiosity got the better of me. I dusted off the radio, noticed it had a cassette deck built in, and slid one tape inside. It clicked, word, and then static. A long hiss filled the air, and then a faint hum began, low and rhythmic, like breathing through a wall. After about 30 seconds, a voice whispered, "Please don't move the chair."
I froze, not in fear, but in a strange instinct to obey. The chair in front of me felt suddenly important, sacred almost. The voice continued, clearer this time. "She's listening." The lights went out. When they came back, the mirror was uncovered. The sheet lay folded perfectly on the chair. My reflection looked wrong, not reversed exactly, but slightly delayed, like the glass couldn't keep up with me. When I tilted my head, the reflection followed a moment later. I ran out, called the facility manager, and told him something was wrong with the electricity. He checked the power lines and shrugged. "That unit doesn't have any electrical access," he said. Back home, I tried to convince myself I'd imagined it. But when I checked my voicemail that night, one message played that I didn't remember receiving. The timestamp showed it was recorded exactly 1 minute after I'd left the storage unit. The voice was my aunt's. "Don't open the last tape," she said. "You can hear them only if you listen long enough. They're in between." The next day, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I drove back. The unit door was half open, even though I was sure I'd locked it. The chair was gone. The radio was still there. And on the floor, one last tape. No label, no number, just black plastic. I knew I shouldn't, but I played it. The sound was faint at first, someone counting, slowly, from 10 to 1. Then silence. Then a new voice, mine, asking, "Who are you?" That's the last thing the recorder caught. The facility was demolished a few months later after a fire spread through the storage row. Investigators said it started in Unit 119. The cause was an electrical malfunction. The same unit the manager told me had no power. I still have the tape. Sometimes I think about playing it again. But then, late at night,
when the house creaks or my phone hums for no reason. I swear I hear the faint sound of breathing right between the static. If this story made you uneasy, drop a like, subscribe for more true-style paranormal stories, and comment below. Would you open the last tape or walk away? I'll pen the best answer.
I work night security at a mid-sized office complex downtown. It's a job I took for the solitude, 4 empty buildings, a golf cart, and the faint hum of the city. Nothing dramatic ever happens. Until last February. The main tower, Building B, has an old maintenance basement that connects to the rest of the complex through a system of tunnels. It's not on the digital map. You only find it if you look for it, which I never did. That night, the fire panel started flashing fault, sub-level access. Normally, that means a sensor tripped in one of the supply rooms. I radioed the engineer on call, but no one answered. I decided to check it myself. The freight elevator stopped 1 floor above where the map said it should. When the doors opened, the air hit me. Thick, damp, metallic. The floor was smooth concrete with faint markings, like something heavy had been dragged recently. The overhead lights buzzed, then flickered, and I saw the old signage painted on the wall. Maintenance, restricted. I called it in again, still no reply. The hallway ended in a single steel door, half open. Inside was a room the size of a classroom. Tools, shelves, pipes running along the ceiling. In the center sat a metal table covered with dusty monitors, each showing static. Old security feeds, maybe. But one of them wasn't static. It showed the parking lot, live. My golf cart, my building, and then me, standing right there in the basement looking at the monitors. Except the figure on screen wasn't moving. It just stood, slightly tilted like a paused frame. But when I stepped closer, the figure twitched, head snapping toward the camera. I swear the motion matched the sound of the fluorescent light above me flickering. My radio cracked to life. Control to 2B, you're off route. Return to ground level. I exhaled, relieved. Copy, I'm in the basement, checking a... Before I could finish, a second voice came through, identical to mine. Copy, I'm in the basement. The channel went dead.
The monitors began switching feeds. Stairwells, hallways, office floors, all empty. Then one of them showed a camera angle I didn't recognize. A narrow corridor lined with filing cabinets, wet footprints leading away from the lens. The feed stuttered, then zoomed in on the far wall where someone had scrawled words in red marker. Return what you borrowed. The elevator behind me dinged. Doors opened on their own. Inside, there was a single fluorescent light flickering and a clipboard sitting on the floor. My name was printed on the top. Below it, a single item logged out under my signature. Master key, sub-level access. I hadn't signed it. The temperature dropped sharply. My breath clouded in front of me. The monitors behind flickered faster, cycling through feeds that now all showed the same thing. My security office upstairs. The chair was empty, but the radio on the desk was moving, slowly turning toward the camera. Then it stopped. The feed zoomed in, and I realized someone was sitting there after all. It was me. The exact same uniform, the same badge, the same posture. He lifted the radio and whispered into it, "Return what you borrowed." I stumbled into the elevator, slammed the ground button, and watched the floor numbers climb. 1, 2, 3. Then it stopped at dash. Not 0, not basement. Just a dash. The doors opened to darkness. The air smelled like wet concrete and ozone. I stepped back, hit close. The doors shut. When I got back to the surface, it was nearly dawn. The control room logs showed no fire alarm, no fault signal, and no record of my radio calls. The engineer swore there was no sub-level in the plans. I tried to prove him wrong, but the elevator panel no longer had a button for B-, just ground and up. A week later, I found an envelope taped to my locker. Inside was a single key, old brass, labeled sub-level access. My initials were etched on the back. I don't remember carving them. I threw the key into the river on my way home, but sometimes when I'm on patrol and the radios crackle, I still hear that other voice, my voice, saying softly through the static, "Return what you borrowed." If this story left you uneasy, hit that like button, drop a comment below. What would you do if your job took you one floor lower than reality? And subscribe for more stories that feel too real to be fiction.